Hey everybody, good morning. And look at that. The S&P has gone essentially nowhere for 2 whole months now. Essentially nowhere. Starting out of February, right there. February 12th, right here. April 15th, yesterday. The market has gone nowhere. Right there, that high. Right there, that low. Nada. I mean, we took a trip up. We took a trip down. Nowhere. And, I mean, what can you say? What can you say? And we continue the bank earnings today. Getting Bank of America coming in, beating on the top, beating on the bottom. Not getting much reaction. Not at all. And, yesterday we were getting reports that Israel was going to retaliate. Then by this morning, we'll do it later. Maybe later. So, I mean, where does that leave us all? The market panicking, thinking World War III is starting, but in the end, kind of a nothing burger, really, when you look at the whole thing, I guess you might say. And there you go, right there. Looking at Bank of America, United Health Group, Johnson & Johnson, Morgan Stanley, Bank of BNY Mellon, PNC, and just not, the market just not feeling a lot of it this morning. It's like, make sure I click on the right chart. I mean, Morgan Stanley popping a little bit. It's just sideways chop. I mean, just staying in the sideways chop right there. Even the pre-market pop, just a bunch of nothing. I mean, we've been extended. It's like Johnson Johnson continuing to get murderized, and BK, little pop, little continuation. Not much, Tonight after the close, while we're doing 30 minutes of awesome, which if you want to come, 5 p.m. Eastern, do 30 minutes of awesome, 30 minutes of your requests, at least. I mean, lately we've been going like an hour and a half, and it's not a show without you. So set your alert on your phone, come hang out with me. I'll check out your charts, whatever it might be. So we got United Airlines, UAL. We've got IBKR, Interactive Brokers, reporting earnings tonight. JB Hunt, JBHT. Yeah, that looks kind of choppy sideways. We got OMC and a few smaller banks. And before they open on Wednesday, ASML, which looks like it wants to come back to the roadmap line. Abbott Laboratories. Abbott. That could bounce right there. Bounce break up through 117-ish, 118-ish. Be on the way to 125. And it may do it in one big go. Right there. And US Bank Corp. It looks like it might bounce. First Horizon, which used to be a Tennessee bank. It used to be First Tennessee Bank. Now it's First Horizon. I guess can't call it First Tennessee Bank and then be a major player, on the whole United States scene. But a lot of these banks looking like this with the potential bounce off this roadmap line. Seeing a lot of that same pattern. Even Morgan Stanley there, same pattern. You see it, we got a bounce right there. Same pattern, getting the bounce. So, opportunity, maybe. And reminder, Tesla coming up next week. Most of the time we've seen a drop, but we've been pretty much dropping since the last earnings. Jamming it down in here. Almost, it looks like if we open right here, we're going to hit the 158 target. Anyway, before I get too much into this, all trading involves a substantial risk of loss. Past performance not necessarily indicative of future results. Just because I predicted it and it came true doesn't mean I'll ever get another one right again. This presentation intended to be informational, educational, fun, and entertaining. It is not a recommendation to buy or sell anything, any financial instrument or otherwise. Don't buy stuff from gurus. Don't buy stuff from me. Don't buy stocks, don't buy options, don't buy bonds, don't buy Forex, don't buy futures, don't buy cryptos, don't buy treasuries, don't trade them, don't long them, don't short them, don't trade them. If you desire personal financial advice, that's not what I do. You got to hire and consult a financial advisor, and hopefully it's somebody you trust, because most people just trying to make some of your money into some of their money. I mean, that's kind of the way the world works, right? Very, very few things out there do you get for free. Very few things. There's some people out there that'll build you up, that'll help you out for free, but not many. I do this right here to try to help people. But, your loyalty, you coming back, you watching this actually helps me out, because, you share it with people. I get, the ads that play help support me and my family. And then when you choose to go deeper, that helps me even more. So, I mean, it's all a game of give and take, right? The calendar right now, this week, is pretty wide open. Like, we don't really have, that's cool. Forex Factory having problems. We don't really have much on the calendar this week, the rest of the week. And another interesting tidbit, everything disconnecting here. Check out S5FI. Kind of put it on the back burner for a couple days, but look where we're getting down to. All right, take it off log mode. There we go. Look how close we're getting to the bottom. Only about 15 away from the 20 line. I mean, I said we were going down here eventually. And can we do a narrow miss? Well, sure. We could do a bounce kind of like this, where we come back up for a few days. We could get down a little lower. I mean, we've done these bounces before. We could go all the way back to the top before we come to the bottom. Eventually, we're going to get down here, though. And then also very interesting, not the 200-day, but the TW right here. Look at this one. Stocks above their 20-day. All the way down. This one can go down to, I think 2 is usually the lowest. 1 or 2. It's 1 or 2% of S&P 500 stocks above their 20-day. That's pretty beat down when the market gets like that. I mean, look, the last time we were down here, as low as we are right now, was right here in October. We were just a little lower, down at 5. Time before that, March. Time before that, December. And when we really got lower was back here at the bottom of the market, basically. And so this is one to keep in mind right here. If we bottom this sucker out, we're probably going to get at least a few days reversal. And this is, just stocks above their 20 days. So this can flip-flop really fast. This tends to be a very high frequency oscillator, if you will, for the market. A lot of people like watch RSI and MACD, and I like to watch these right here. The number of S&P 500 stocks above their 20-day, their 50-day, and their 200-day. Now, I'm not so sure that we topped yet. I mean, right here, last time, rewind 3 years ago, we topped here in April. We were way up higher. And we dropped and dropped and dropped and bounced. And as the market climbed higher, less and less stocks were participating. And then we made the actual high in the S&P here, way past the high. And then we went and visited the bottom. We didn't actually make the bottom till down there in September, October, like we bottomed out all the other ones. Then we just now broke above the top right here. Just now. I mean, that was 2 weeks ago. Early April. So what are we going to do this time? Interesting. But this does create a divergence in the market. As we went higher high, these made a lower high. We had less participating. So if we had something that was stocks above their, I don't know, something bigger, 500-day moving average, we may actually see that setting up also. So That was an epic high. We hadn't really seen a high that high since back here in 2013. That was a lot of stocks participating. So we don't typically go that high on stocks above their 200-day. We don't typically get that broad of participation. Hanging out at the 80 is usually as high as we get. We do, this one oscillates slower than that stocks above the 50-day. So, anyway. All right. Neighbor got a Cybertruck. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I liked sitting in it. When I sat in it, it reminded me of sitting in a Humvee, except a lot lower, and the seats were way more comfortable. Now, what do I think? We could be cooked. I mean, it's entirely possible. You know, sometimes when we hit the top, we just go visit the bottom. Do I think we're doing a COVID-style crash? Unlikely. And usually it's more orderly. And sometimes we go down, we hit the top, we go down, we hit the top, we go down to the bottom, rally back up, and then we take it. I mean, it's a different story, although this one went pretty fast back here. So, I don't know. It's just one of those things to watch how the story unfolds. But this is our warning lights on our cockpit, you know. And this one's starting to warn that we may be approaching a bottom. This one's already on that we may be approaching a bounce. So, just one of those things you got to watch out for. ES right here, just kind of flat overnight. Not really feeling much of anything. When we look at where we are, what we're doing. Let's talk about where we got down to yesterday, though. Look at that. Look how orderly this was. I was warning about that 30-minute roadmap line yesterday morning. Bounced right off of it. Bounced right off of it. Went right down to the 1618 and hung out there. And right there was the close, just below the 1618. We actually drifted a little lower overnight, coming back up a little bit. Potentially found a bottom. I don't know. We'll see how this shapes up here. Now, how would we compare this at this point? I'll pull this all the way down. The 618 level is now here, a little bit lower. Still got to break up through that downtrend of highs. Still got to break through that, all the different time frame roadmap lines. Starting with the 5-minute, we're working on trying to push through. Sounds like the market just opened. Working on a bounce here. Bounce once, bounce twice. Will it work? That's a good question. 15-minute. Still up there a ways. Ulta. Far enough alert. Let's go see what that was real quick. And got down to the retrace. Yeah, look at that. Tesla 158. Boom. Zillow. Boom. Right on down in there. Love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it. Watch for a reversal here. Now it's time to set an alert here and here. That was something else. We're going to set those alerts on Zillow. Zillow could bounce here, and if we do, yeah, I've already been planning this. See, I just have to move it over. Target could be up here. That's a double on shares. Raise your hand if you don't like making 100% just on shares. So you're in the wrong place. Anyway, I like it. Could you make more on options? You could. Time frame, that's the hard part. This could take a little while to get there. This correction I talked about back, funny enough, I talked about it back in January. when we were sitting right here that I thought we were going to come down here, and here we are. One of the people in my, Termite Trading Labs group happened to work for Zillow, and they weren't too happy about my prediction for going lower, but here we are. And now may be the time to find a bottom. Similar to BA right here. We may be getting close to the bottom here. We could go just a little lower. Funny enough, 158 again, just like Tesla. We're nearing the bottom. I actually have an alert right there at 165. Look for that to poke below, and then we can get a bottom and a reversal. Signals that we can go up, and the up move could be substantial. Maybe like there's no way with all the crap going on with Boeing. Well, when I drew this arrow right here was before any of that crap started happening back in December. Charts move without the news. I'm telling you, the news is the news that attracts us to the stories. We like to put stories to things. So the news that tends to be the news that gets put out there by the mainstream media, and that we actually hear, supports the narrative, supported by prices and stuff like that. And there's literally hundreds of thousands of news stories that never make mainstream media every day because they don't support the narrative that we're looking for. You can pretty much find stories that go both ways every single day on everything, every topic out there. We latch on to the ones that support and provide reasons for things happening. If you can get your mind around that's the way it works, you can do way better in trading. If you can decouple thinking that things have to happen because of the news, and you can actually look at the chart and kind of predict what the news is going to be. I mean, I didn't know Boeing's going to lose doors and wheels and cowlings and have whistleblowers that get killed in parking lots and all that stuff. I mean, I didn't know anything. I didn't, it's not like I was predicting that, but I drew that big blue arrow and it's almost exactly what it did. So interesting. Interesting to me. And when I predicted that Tesla would probably come back down here, I didn't know they were going to have some production and sales problems or whatever. And, this double orange zone may actually be where we find a bottom. Could be just I was looking for that target all the way back here a year ago. We came up shy. I'm just saying. That's the target. We came up shy of it. I've been looking for that zone for quite a while. Now, could we go lower? It's possible. It's possible. I know there's at least one guru type looking for 85, which I'm not so sure the chart supports 85 at the moment. But I do think we're going much higher after we find that bottom, wherever it is. It's right there. And we had the zone on down in here. I'm actually going to put a couple alerts just in case. Watch for that. So back to ES. Now that we're done with the alerts, when you look at the daily chart here, we did 3 moves. Did that first move down, this retrace, and this move down. If we compare those, that high, that low, that high, 1272, right there. That can be a temporary bottom. Now, we may rally back up, and if we hold support at this 618 right here, and turn down again, we're going to do we're likely to do a nested move that takes us on down, potentially into the roadmap line down here. I have removed these off of this chart. I got too many charts up that keep saving each other. So we're potentially going to do that further move down here. Right into the roadmap line. That roadmap line keep coming up just a little bit. So we may bounce. And come down here. That could last a little while too. I mean, that could last out into the summer even. You know, Goose, it could push out my timeline. Like this correction could last a while, and then this actually rallies toward the election. So if we're going to break above that 618 now, could push us up into the 5400 area on ES. And if we get a bigger correction, well, that could support even higher prices. So we'll see what we get to. We'll see as this all shapes up. No crystal ball, just a bag of unicorn dust sitting here. NQ turned notably more bearish yesterday. Back tested. And, well, we didn't even hardly back test, I guess. Depends on where the channel was. I guess maybe the channel was slightly down. Didn't even touch, which usually we do. Didn't touch, but then rejected off. This one, notably, like I said, notably more bearish because we could just flush that on down to the roadmap line at this point. That set aligns to anything. That set aligns to anything at this point. Although we do have a whole lot of support right here. Look at this. Coming across here. Right up to those lows. That's a whole lot of price action has been in this area on NQ. Which is NASDAQ. All right, it's just the futures for NASDAQ. Why do I use the futures? Because they show me overnight price action. Whereas the indexes, they just give me a gap. Like they don't trade overnight. They stop when the market closes. As you can see right here, we stopped trading yesterday at 4, and we just started trading at 9:30. Like that's there's a lot of missing data between those that gets shown to you right here. You have 4 right over here. We did this extra price action, and then we just opened over here. So anyway, Russell looking, and this is, like I said, this one's kind of the canary in the coal mine here. Indicates that we may be heading on down. This has me concerned. We're already to the roadmap line on the daily here. I kind of thought we would be heading there. And if we don't find support there, we're coming on down. Maybe to here, and quite possibly on a longer duration plummet out to, I removed it off here. Removed it off. Let's just delete these real quick. Look like this. First move down, retrace. That next move down takes us all the way down here. Yeah, 1300. I think it's probably on the IWM chart where I have it drawn. Yeah, 130 to 150 where it could take us down to. Oil here. Problematic for a re-election campaign. Oil price is potentially going to break out. That's just consolidating right underneath that resistance. Usually results in a pop. Next level up, 90. Level above that, 100, 105. That's oil for you. Still the same path, still the same narrative. Just going to rest here. How long do we rest? Well, I mean, we rested quite a while over here before we popped. And then we had to soften it up before we got the real good pop. And then rest for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days. And then popped again. And now we've rested 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days. Do we pop again? Could take a little longer. I mean, this rest was a little longer before we pop. kind of had a drift higher. So we may pop this right here and rest for a few more days before we actually pop that 90 area. GC. Nice big gap up right there. I'm not so sure we're marching higher at the moment. That's pretty played out, and I would expect a little bit deeper retrace. That one yesterday, it could work, but not quite deep enough for me. I would have liked to see a little more, and we're hitting the resistance on the 618 there. You have to jump down time frame so you can see all the candles. What is this? This is gold futures, gold as in gold metal. Put it on that high, that right there, that low. So we've come up to the 618, rejecting off a little bit. If this does the 3-wave kind of correction thing at that 618, could put us right down in the box. All that is just echoing that move right there off the 618, right there. Potentially putting us right in the zone, right down there. I've got an alert sitting right there at the top of the box. 23.28. Just waiting. The Bitcoin right here, everybody's like, what's happening with Bitcoin? It hasn't made a lower low, notably. We have not gotten lower than this low right back here. So there's a halving event coming up, if you didn't know. Halving happening Friday. I widely speculated we would see volatility into the halving. It's hard to argue that that's not volatility. All right, that's how many point range is that? Let's see. That high, that low. I mean, we've been on almost a 15,000 point range, or $15,000 range, whatever you want to call it, right there on Bitcoin. Look at BITQ. Oh, imagine that. I thought we might retrace right back down into this box before we bounced. Look where we are, right there. 10.15. Could go just a little lower. It's not magic. These are just chart patterns. It's not magic. So, Bitcoin, it's got support right down here at the lows. These two lows right here. That's where the support is, and the 1618 right at the bottom of the. Could we rally? Could we jam it down there ahead of the halving? Sure. Could we rally all of a sudden for this halving? Sure. There's a lot of news. I even saw this. I saw a tidbit on Fox hit Twitter yesterday. Like somebody clipped it out. It was like, look, they're even talking about the halving event on Fox. So there's a Chinese set of ETFs that are getting ready to be approved. Maybe they happen any day now, and they're going to have required buying by their national banks. This will be interesting. This is something different playing out this time. Now, right here, 500 blocks left. 3 days, 10 hours. Now, is halving itself bullish? No, it's the reaction. It's the sentiment that happens after halving as the supply disappears from the market. Supply and demand is basically just sentiment, right? People freak out because the supply is short. There's not a lot. We're creatures of fear of missing out if there's scarcity of something. So it drives things crazy high in price when there's scarcity. We've got to get our piece. And this is coming up. Difficulty. We're actually running ahead of schedule too. 18 blocks ahead. About 8 days for the next difficulty adjustment. But we've got halving in 3 days. So we'll get the halving on Friday, and then we'll adjust the difficulty next week. After that, difficulty is adjusted by the algorithm every 14 days-ish. It's actually by number of blocks. It's supposed to be about every 14 days. So it keeps it in check. Like it's like self-speed limiting on the mining of Bitcoin. And mining of Bitcoin is not really, I mean, it's kind of a misnomer. Everybody talks about mining, but it's really transaction authenticating is what it is. All these transactions are authenticated right here into a block of transactions. The subsidy for authenticating those transactions, for verifying those transactions, is what gets paid out. That's the 6.25 Bitcoins. It's a subsidy. It's a transaction subsidy. And right now, it's 6.25. And once we cross, see that block, the total fees for verifying these transactions was 0.77 Bitcoins. And the subsidy was 6.25, which added together made it 7 Bitcoins for that block right there. Now, come block number 840,001, the new subsidy is going to be 3.125 Bitcoins. The current subsidy is 6.25. So that's what the halving is. Like the subsidy for authenticating transactions is going to be cut in half. We commonly call it mining, but really it's just a transaction authentication subsidy. All right. Hopefully everybody understands. And this is an exciting time. And typically it takes us about 6 months after this event for the sentiment to kind of reverse and we go crazy. Every time we've done it in the past, we've gone quite crazy. What do I mean? I go through this every day pretty much. And I pulled up the wrong chart. Of course. Dun, 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 dun. Right here. Every time we've done this in the past. That was the origin 15 years ago. Came into the first halving with a pullback. After the first official halving, we pull back, rally again, next halving. It creates this rally afterward, pull back. Then the next one, rally, pull back. And we come up to where we are now. We pulled back. That was the rally. We pulled back. Here comes the rally. How high do we go? My estimate between 150 and 300,000 before we pull back again. And we can pull back all the way to where we are right now. Go up to 150 to 300. And even if we got to 300, come all the way back down to 60. People are going to say how crappy and scammy and blah, blah, blah this is. And that'll probably be out here in 26, 27 when we do that. Probably make a target right out here. Somewhere right out here. We'll come back no matter how high we go. And then we'll rally again into 2028 because we'll have another halving. Ethereum, Ether. Why am I using futures for these? Is because that's a centralized, authenticated, verified price. Whereas when they just trade on all the exchanges, there's no centralized location that verifies any price. So the price is just a consensus between brokers. And if you know anything about crypto, well, there's a lot of brokers, like a lot, like 748 different exchanges. Binance is the biggest in the world. Coinbase, Bybit, OKX, Upbit, Kraken, KuCoin, Gate.io, HTX, Bitfinex, MEXC, BitGet, Bitstamp, Crypto.com, Binance TR, Gemini, Binance US, Toko Crypto, Bing X. So these are all the crypto exchanges. And you may be like, where can I just go to trade them all? Well, look, there's no place. No place at all. None of these support even, 1%. None of these even support like 1%. All right. That's how fractured the crypto market is. You look at why do I say that? Look how many coins there are. 2.4 million coins. 2.4 million cryptos. You see any number over here even close to 1,000? There's a few thousands, but 10,000, 100,000, million? We're not even close to covering to getting coverage on all these cryptos. That's what makes this market so difficult. And these don't, there's nothing out there that correlates the price between that, audits the price between exchanges. Like Coinbase can have a totally different price than Binance for anything, for Bitcoin, for Ethereum, for Doge. And they don't even support all the same coins. These are important points in the market. Most of us are used to the stock market where there's a centralized controlling price authority that verifies the price. So I use these futures as kind of because they're tied to CFTC and they have a centralized verified price for the futures. That's why I use them to chart. And right down here would be where I think we're going. Now, there are occasions where there are significant discrepancies between the futures price and the general agreed upon spot market price. So that's something you have to be aware of and watch out for. Dollar probably going right up here. Now we could take, after having come up this high, we could take a little diversion and before we get up here, but probably on a path to come right back up here, probably somewhere around 108, 109 on the dollar. And if you're one that believes in the correlation of the stock market, that means the stock market's probably going to pull back. But we're sitting here at all-time highs while the dollar is not at all-time lows. And I mean, as the market pulled back, we went right up here in October. And then we marched to all-time highs. But this thing is not marching back down right here. So your correlation between the dollar and the stock market, you need to check that one at the door with the mainstream media. It's just not holding the salt, not holding the mustard. So, UNH, pretty wild bounce there. Did we reach the bottom? We came up a little shy of where I thought we might bounce at 420. Could that be the bottom? Sure. Could we rally up, hit the roadmap line again, and then push on down? Sure. This is very much unclear at this point what we're doing on UNH. I think the downside's undone, but we're bouncing off the low here. We did make a nominal lower low, which can wrap that up. So it could be done. It just hasn't proved it to me yet. SMCI. Going to have to zoom this one up a little bit. Getting a pop, but it's not looking the best. It looks like we may have topped back here in March and maybe marching our way back down to the roadmap line, if not substantially lower. All right. For those that are new here, this is the psychology of a market. When things go a little crazy, we tend to chop people up and then rip their money. If you've been around the stock market very long, you've seen this cycle, one point or another, happens on all different time frames. All different time frames. It's kind of the psychology of psychology of a bubble market, because this is typically what happens on a bubble. Everybody gets so excited. They're talking about how smart they are. Similar to the way everybody's talking about the investment to be in was NVIDIA and SMCI. And now that we have all these common folks chasing after it, NVIDIA is not making higher highs. SMCI is not making higher highs. Even AMD coming all the way back near the roadmap line. It's one to be careful of when you hear everybody talking about it. Humana probably moving up on sympathy with UNH. UNH popping, beating on the top, beating on the bottom, making billions of dollars. Or at least transacting billions of dollars. SMCI, Humana. So Humana's moving up, even though they report earnings next week. ITCI. There's an interesting health technology, pharmaceutical. I don't find these very tradable for me. They a lot of stuff that the FDA gets involved in just doesn't follow the patterns. Let's see. PFE, that's the one I was looking for. I saw a lot of news last night that Paxlovid was being reported as just a big scam. Supports that coming on down. Resistance, support. That one may go touch 24. ELV. Potentially popping 587. May take it a while. I mean, we could be talking like projection here. So we could be talking like out here maybe November, December before we get up this high. Cigna, glancing off the 1272. May retrace, may hold just an echo here and push on higher to 399. Definitely a much better chart than Humana or UNH. The XYZ is just untradeable for me. Doesn't have enough candles to do any technical indicators, and that's just craziness. PLI, that not tradable either. Got a reverse split. It's essentially a giant dumpster fire right there. Don't trade stuff like that. You're just, I mean, if you're going to get in and out as a day trade, that's not what I do. If you're trying to trade this for any big move or big opportunity, for gosh sakes, man, just stay away. You're just going to lose your money. MCBC, choppy sideways. Another bank got, well, popped way up here, but earnings coming up next week, looks like. They get a buyout or something like that. Let's see. Yeah. Without digging in, I have no idea what actually happened here. That's a crazy pop for something that doesn't really move. Looks like a buyout. Regional bank. MS, Morgan Stanley, just chopping. It's got earnings coming up. Should have had earnings today. Popping. Potentially going to push up to 96. CGM. Oncology, pharmaceutical, biotech, medtech. That's dangerous. Careful. CVS. Went a little deeper than I hoped it would here. It did the three-wave kind of thing here. That move, that move, that move. Right down. Remove. Let me clear all these fibs off so you can see it. What I'm talking about. That point, 1, 2, 3, using the 3-point tool, came down right to the 100%, where, what does that tell you? It tells you this move right here was the same size as that move right there. That's basically an echo in the market. If we hold that, turn higher, get back above the roadmap line, which right in this zone where we were consolidating, get back above that zone, probably going higher, potentially up here. And that actually needs to be corrected just a little bit. Potentially just a little lower than all the way up there. Now that we went a little lower, I just want to move it. I don't want to resize it. Forget it. I'll just draw a new one. Potentially in this zone, if we get above here. That would be the target. Could we go lower? Should we? Yeah. 65, 61. Could be even worse. Return to lows. CNC. Just chopping. Nothing so far. Back above 78. Could go to 84, 89. IBM. Looks like it's coming back down to the roadmap line. Be where I would expect. TSLZ. Tesla short. Going inverse. You know, that's what inverse means. Tesla short. 2x leverage. And it's popping. if in fact it's going to follow my pattern, 52, but leverage doesn't always follow the pattern. So be careful on leverage. AMD, coming on, trucking on down to the roadmap line. Looks like the roadmap line is going to come up into the zone, and this is coming down into the zone. We'll see if they meet in the middle here. If they don't hold this, something more sinister and bearish may be at play for AMD. IZM, well, crazy pops usually result in crazy drops, so be careful. Back to that psychology chart right here. Crazy pops usually get crazy drops. It's just a matter of time frame. You know, there's just very few candles here, but if we go down like this starts looking more like, see those little jig jags on the way up? That can result in a drop. We consolidate and then drop further. Doesn't have to, but I would definitely be careful if I was messing with that, because Live Nation getting an investigation by the whatever it is, FTC and Federal Trade Commission, and right back to the roadmap line. Look at that. So even though it has that could be the bottom. We break back above 101, we could go up to 111, possibly even 118. Tesla pushing on down into the target zone. See if that bottoms. If not, just wait. You push all the way down here. PNC, sometimes I get lucky on my targets. 158. I probably don't have an active buy. I had to liquidate a bunch of stuff to pay taxes yesterday. PNC, I was looking for that roadmap line bounce. It's another bank beating on the top, not on the bottom. Actually came up shy on the bottom by almost 1%. If it can break back above 155, going up to 167, 174. Illumina, this one's caution is advised. We get below this, could make a lower low down here around 75. SCCO, yeah, look, that may come back to the roadmap line. That was just way extended. Craziness. It could go up to 135. Well, we could sit here, consolidate, and then pop again. INO. Another biotech, pharma, medtech. If it's going to do the pattern, break it back above 11, head up to 17. ALB. Just chopping down here. I do expect this to push on down to here, somewhere down around this 80 to 90 zone. BHP, just chopping sideways. MT, just chopping sideways. And that may actually go a little lower. That low, that high. Got support right in here. Get below that, we could go on down to 20. PDD. Retesting the lows after that spike. I've kind of been looking for it to push down in this zone. A little lower down here around 100. AGQ. Ultra Silver. Be careful. That did not break above the roadmap line, right? Or did not break above the 618. Excuse me. Didn't think this big high. All the way back here in August of 2020. This low right here in September 22 forms a 618 resistance, which was resistance on the way down. It was support, resistance, resistance, resistance. If we can get above that, it sets us up to potentially go up to 105, and that's a leveraged ultra silver, so be careful. Be careful. All right, that's the list for the day. Bias for the day, I'm super cautious. I'm finally working on that correction I've been looking for, and we may get some continuation lower. We could go back to the roadmap line. It's entirely possible. The daily roadmap line, that is. That daily roadmap line. Daily roadmap line. Let's just bump over to this chart real quick where it's a little cleaner. We could be talking about back here to 4,800. Of course, it'll probably, by the time we get there, it'll probably drift on higher a little bit. Kind of kicked in the algorithmic. I mean, if you look at the smaller time frames, you can, this is algorithmic selling. It's like algorithmic selling, algorithmic selling, algorithmic selling. It's kind of what that looks like. Algorithms liquidating, algorithms liquidating, algorithms liquidating. At some point, they turn into buyers, but at what level? That's the big question. We are below that 50.90 I was talking about. That kind of puts this at risk for a further decline on the SPX. So, all right, I will be back at 5 p.m. Back live 5 p.m. Come hang out with me. I'll take your requests, and we'll go through it all till we're done. See you later. Same bat time, same bat channel. Tomorrow morning, I'll be back live again, going through what's moving in the morning, where the opportunities are. Have a great day, everybody.